Spider Pig, does whatever a Spider Pig does. Can he swing from a web? No, he can't. He's a pig. Look out, he is a Spider Pig.
Here we are, Las Vegas, home of Spider Pig. If you like to track layout memes, a bit more confident this time. It's of course second video. Let's do this. Of course, as I mentioned last time, this is one I pre-done, so it's just me going over the voiceover for it. So this was what done on the Xbox, as you see by my gamer tag on there, Serapi Smudger 18. Took a few goes to get this right, because of course you can see there 135.0 was to begin with, and just comparing that to my previous times on previous F1 games, just as we did last time, so don't forget I've got them all on my phone right there. So F1 24 Las Vegas was a 132.7, so we're probably looking at around about, as I mentioned last time, F1 25 tends to be around 2 seconds slower compared to previous F1 games. So let's see what happens. Okay, so here we go, just about to come around to the final corner now and start our lap. Here we go. Now it starts. Coming in beautifully off from the curb there. Perfect. Nicely into that corner, just because with that, you want to drift out ever so slightly because you want to be able to put a throttle down because you're going into that corner around about third or fourth gear. So you want to be able to drift that out ever so slightly. So then you're putting that throttle down ever so slightly, changing up into gears like I was for Silverstone last time out, through the gears, being able to put that throttle down as much as you can, because in this next section, of course, you want to get to around about fifth by the time you get into this next corner, because then you've got that grip, you've got that certain traction that you've got there. But as you're about to see, going to it nicely, drifting out into fifth, a little bit off the throttle ever so slightly, just to be able to maintain that grip and traction throughout that corner until crash into the wall. Of course, we know if it's a proper race that would be game over because that would be tyre and suspension completely wrecked. But of course, time trial, so that doesn't happen. So obviously going into that corner to do it again, of course, turning in ever so slightly more earlier. Well, not ever so slightly, definitely turning more earlier, because otherwise we'll off suspension broken, end of race. But it's still maintaining that fifth, sixth gear through there because on this straight, you want that speed, you want that power to make up as much time as possible. Because even with clattering the wall like that, I still managed to maintain that speed, which I was really surprised at. But of course, turning a lot earlier, bit more slower, a tiny bit more slower, not much slower than what I was going, but still keeping it around about fifth, sixth gear, because that gives us that nice push and propulsion, if you like, get a better word for it. Been a long day at work, and just gives us that emphasis onwards. So about to go down the straight now, DRS wide open, approaching 180, 190 miles an hour. Coming into the 50-meter board there, of course, slow down right down to around about third gear. Now, braking just before the 100-meter board. Uh, if I was to do this again, which I will do because I love Formula One games, I'll brake slightly later. Because going through this complex, yes, you want to be able to maintain as much speed as possible, but you want to be able to maintain that grip, that traction as well. Because Vegas being a street track, basically, you want that traction. You want to be able to have that throughout all the corners throughout here, because of course, going through the sphere section, going past Ravels Boulevard, things like that. No, wait, that's Singapore. Apologies. Going down the Las Vegas Strip, that's the word I'm looking for. You want that traction, you want that speed, raw speed with this. So it's kind of like a twist between Monaco, Singapore, and Monza when you come to think about it for setup wise. Because this one was one of the ones I've done with a setup that I used, um, which again at some point when I do the next one, probably I'll share with you where I get my setups from, because it is credit to the people that do these on setups for us or for gamers like myself that don't have, unfortunately, have as much time as we would love to do these setups. But anyway, back to this. So into the corner nicely, into third gear, wobble at the back. Okay, and that was me being a bit too greedy on the throttle. So, of course, going into there again, pushing out, of course, lightly down the throttle, changing to full straight away, removes that wobble at the back there. Because there wasn't much compromise coming through here. It's coming into getting here with the braking zone here, get into sixth gear. You are going to be screaming with the rev limiter here. But it means that we can actually get into there nicely, slow down nicely down to third, go around about 80 miles an hour, going through that corner complex nicely as well, because by braking earlier into sixth, especially being a high res in this, get to go into there, nicely clipping the apex there. And again, going over that curb ever so slightly. And yes, it does cause damage to the skid blocks, which you saw with the sparks there. But getting actually onto that curb and actually cutting across it, especially in these games, because of course it's not real life, you've got your car positioned nicely going into the next couple, well, into this next corner. So being able to a little bit of a slide waggly out their tail there. You'll probably notice in future videos that I do like a bit of a happy go lucky tail, if you like, at the rear of the car, because it's nice to be able to maintain and control to actually get that proper experience within there. Of course, so you'd be able to actually have quick corrections. So I'm grabbing the steering wheel again that you can't see, but grabbing it and having quick corrections so we can actually be able to position that car as we want to. Because coming into here now, again, you have to go right down in order to be able to get into that corner. So that's going from third down to second. So remember from Silverstone last time out in Ferrari F2004, and I was going into that complex there, and I said I'd actually in the modern cars do it in third, going through that, then go to fourth, fifth, sixth. With this, yes, second through there definitely, because you could keep it in third, but with the traction with these modern cars, you may lose the rear end ever so slightly, so you might spin. So putting that into second, put the throttle down ever so slightly, and then straight into third. So bang, 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 bang. Because with that, then you're able to gain that traction, keep the control of the car, and get the speed down straight away. Or as I do in this case, put the throttle down too much too early, lose the rear end, which isn't good. But again, it gives us that traction, gives us that speed, that momentum that we need. Especially going through this complex here. So going through nicely through here. So I've taken that wide line, braking in between the 100-meter to 50-meter boards, so around about 70 meters for the corner. And in this one, we want to bring it right down to around about 90, 85 miles an hour in third gear, because we want to be able to get into this corner ever so nicely, or as I do incorrectly here, jump across the curb, hit the bollard. Bollard is an absolute dick, deserves it. But again, doing this again, I would actually, again, brake exactly the same as I did, but turn in slightly later, because again, real life, going cutting the corner like that, hit the bollard, front wing damage, depending on how fast you go through there. Now, I said about 85 to 90 miles an hour through there. It's probably a little bit faster than that, especially in real life, it'll be faster than that, but in game, you're going to be around about that, if not a little bit faster, to be honest with you. But it's around about there, that should be okay, to be honest with you. So here we go, going down, pummeling down now the Las Vegas Strip, where Sainz famously had the drain cover hit up the bottom of his car and broke his entire suspension. So going for a DRS wide open, approaching 200 miles an hour. And what we want to do here, so you probably just saw that ever so slightly. If I can go back by 10 seconds, here we go. So I'm just going to pause it as the DRS closes. There we go, coming down towards this corner. There. So it literally is just before 100-meter board. Just before 100-meter board, slam the brakes on, DRS closes, get the gears down to around about fourth in this one, because we need to have the traction to get through this mini complex here. So if you remember back in Singapore, when we first went there in 2009, we had the Singapore Sling where it had those mini complex of corners and mini complex of curbs. It's basically this, effectively, but a different version. Tighter cornering, and of course, having to try and get that car around nice and quicker as well. Because you see here, as you saw there, just about clipped the apex going into it, but definitely hit that curb on the right-hand side going into it. So that's exactly where you want to be. If I was to do this again, I'll turn it slightly earlier, because again, you won't be able to have that quick yank motion, or yeet motion, if you like, to get into that corner, because without that, and not getting into that corner as tight as I did and should have done, you're compromising your next corner, which then means that you're then compromising the rest of your lap, especially towards the end of it as well, so you can pick up the pace and gears again. But luckily I've done that okay. We're going through a little wobble at the rear end again. So it's probably a setup issue rather than it being a traction issue with this one. But as I said, with the setup for downforce, you want it to be a mixture of Monaco, Singapore, Monza, which you've got those long straights, you've got that complex corners here, which are nice and tight. So you want that downforce for the grip, for those corner speeds and things. I'll be able to keep that car glued to it as well. So where the ground effect comes into it with these cars as well. But you want that speed. You want that speed down the Las Vegas Strip, start finish straight, straight heading into turn 3. So you want that, don't you? You want that speed, because otherwise you'd be slow as pants, effectively, or as slow as a turtle. So it's something we have to compromise, really. Do compromise downforce and slide out throughout the corners, which is pretty much what I've been doing throughout the entire lap, or do we compromise on speed? Take your pick. I'd rather compromise on, as you've seen here, with downforce. So carrying on then, heading towards the end of the lap. Lovely straightforward here, coming into 7th gear, coming through this final corner now, perfectly hitting the apex going through, not going too far over onto the curb, because on that final corner, track limits is a pain, especially in game as well, because if you go too far over, the car of course will go properly over onto that curb itself and go across that line. We can't see it in the cars we are, depending on the camera view, but it soon will come up saying invalidated lap time, deleted, track limits, or this lap and the next lap is invalidated, track limits. That is the worst message to see when you think, I've got the best lap possible here that I've done. Then that bloody message comes up. Absolutely horrible. Hate it. But to finish off, going through across the line, a 1:34.5. So that is the time that I set around the the Las Vegas street circuit. It is one of my favorite tracks when it comes to modern F1, because really, as I said, it's that complex and challenge of corners, speed, getting that traction right, getting the levels of downforce right, so you can get a perfect lap. Now, as I mentioned before, the time I done on F124 was a 1:32.7, and I've done a 1:34.5. So that is what? Quick maths, Nathan. 1 point. Maths after a 12, 14-hour day is my strong point. It is a 1.8 seconds. That's it. 1.8 seconds slower than F124. And as I said, it's big, with these modern games, well, especially with F125, it is 2 seconds slower. No question about it. And sadly, that is the case. So the only way to get better and getting close to those previous times for it is down to setup, but also down to the actual settings that you race with as well. Because for me, again, I'll probably post about this tomorrow, to be honest with you, on Insta. I have my settings. Again, I'm not a professional esports player. I am not a content creator. I'm just someone who loves playing F1 games. So I'm not going to be the best and post top 1% times, to be honest with you. Most of my times range between 40 to 80% of the world rankings on the Xbox and also on PC. So it shows you that I'm in the middle, if you like, in the middle of this. So, or F124, as I've just got up here looking at the phone again, top 46% with that time back in last year's game. So speed is there. But as I said, it's fiddling around things like the brakes. With the automatic braking, anti-lock brakes, is that on? Is that off? Traction control, full, medium, or completely off. It's all these different things, that allow you to go faster. Whereas for me, I'm quite happy with what I'm doing. So again, I said I'll post it tomorrow on Insta, so keep an eye out on that. But just to tell you off the bat, I do braking myself. I do have anti-lock brakes on. I do want to experiment with it off just to get a proper feel of the car and be able to, of course, go a bit quicker as well, because the setups are like that as well with the brake pressure and everything else. And my traction control is medium. So I do, as you saw, get a little bit tail happy coming out the corners, which I'm happy with and I can handle. But next step for me, if I want to go faster, is to have traction control completely off, which I want to do and I have done before, but it didn't go so well. Let's just say that. But that's it. Thank you again for watching. I know the first little reel that I shared and the main video for British Grand Prix that I done, or Silverstone that I done last time out on Sunday, was well received with views. So thank you very much for watching. Next track we're going to do is Qatar, which is going to be a nice one, good one again. It's one I've already pre-done, so I just need to do this part again before posting it. And when this video posted, it's my birthday as well. So it's a happy birthday to me for doing these videos, something that I love to do and enjoy. Yeah, thank you so much again for watching. It's something I love doing, and I'm really glad now that I'm sharing this with you, the world. And hopefully we'll have some more ventures soon. But keep an eye out for Qatar for the next one.